Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I'm Brittany, this is Robert.
Hello.
And today we are going to talk about the true story behind The Conjuring. So, I love scary movies. Do you like scary movies?
Yeah, scary movies are pretty good.
Yeah.
Really nice to have and stuff like that.
I liked The Conjuring a lot. And I didn't even realize until the second time that I'd seen it that it's apparently based on a true story. So, yeah. Okay. The Conjuring was really good though. Like I liked it a lot.
Right, it's 9:18. We're headed down into the cellar where the door's just opened on its own. Give us a sign that you want to communicate with us. Nothing.
What are you guys?
Well, we've been called ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
There's someone here that would like to talk to you.
There's something horrible happening in my house.
It's November 1st, 1971. I'm sitting here with Carolyn Perrin, who, with her family, has been experiencing supernatural occurrences. You picking up anything in here, hon?
Something awful happened here.
Whatever Lorraine sees, feels, touches, it takes a toll on her. A little piece each time.
You have a lot of spirits in here, but there's one that I'm most worried about because it is so hateful. Look what she made me do. We have to get out of here.
That's not gonna help.
This thing has latched itself to your family.
Father, we never seen nothing like this.
I'm coming with you.
No way. I can't lose you.
There's a lady in a dirty nightgown that I see in my dreams. She's standing in front of me. Do you want to see him?
Yeah?
When the music stops, you see him in the mirror standing behind you.
So, I just want to get into a little bit of the background on the whole thing. So this is Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed Warren was a World War II veteran and a former police officer. I like that you're just gonna like look at me while I do this. A former police officer. And then he ended up becoming a self-proclaimed demonologist. So that's somebody who studies demons. And his wife, Lorraine Warren, claimed to be a medium who is capable of communication with the demons that her husband discovered. So Lorraine was actually a consultant on the film. There's a lot of interviews with her. And she said the actual haunting was worse and a lot scarier than the film actually was. They had to cut a lot out because it was too, they wanted to make it PG-13 and a lot of the extra stuff was just too scary for that. It still ended up being rated R, but they wanted to be able to stay true enough to the actual events. Okay, so in January 1971, the Perrin family of 7 moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. Rhode Island. So soon after, Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters began to notice strange things happening. Almost immediately after they had moved in, they would notice things like... They would notice things like a broom moving stop. Or, I found this funny. They claimed there was a, they were being haunted because there were piles of dirt left on a newly cleaned floor. But that happens and there's only 3 of us living here, so... Yeah, okay. I mean, it's hard enough to keep the bathroom clean, and Michaela and I are the only ones that use it. Okay. But, so they had noticed things immediately after they moved in. So occurrences started pretty small. Yeah, there were 7 people living there, so I didn't find it that odd. But she would hear sounds like something was scraping against the kettle in the kitchen when no one was there. Okay, so I'm busy. So Carolyn decided to do some research on the house, and she found some very interesting things. The same family had lived there for 8 generations, but a lot of them had died in really weird or awful ways. Like a couple of children had drowned in the creek nearby. A couple of them had been murdered. Some people had hanged themselves in the attic. Not a great time. So, the scariest part of this entire movie, in my opinion anyways, was when they showed the main demon they portrayed that was haunting the house, which was named Bathsheba. Now, she was an actual person, and I will get to why they thought that later. But I know Emily watches all of my videos, and I can just hear her saying now, like, I know who that is, she's in the Bible. Not that one, that is a different person. This lady was a little crazy. Okay. So, it's really just a theory on this particular. Okay, so Bathsheba Thayer was a real person that was born in Rhode Island in 1812. In her early 30s, she married Judson Sherman. This was in 1844. About 5 years later, they had a son and named him Herbert. So everything was going well until an infant died in her care. Nobody really knew whose infant it was, if it was hers or a neighbor's, because it was such a long time ago, so I couldn't really find exactly whose it was. I mean, I figured it's probably her own kid, like that made more sense to me anyways. But what they were sure on is that the infant, the cause of death was because the child had been impaled at the base of the skull with what looked like a large gauge sewing needle. This was when Bathsheba was put on trial. So guess what people yelled? Witchcraft. So many of the townsfolk believed that the child was a sacrifice to the devil. Now before this, many women were really jealous of Bathsheba, and they envied her because I guess she was very beautiful. So of course they were like, I hate her, let's get her hanged. I mean, I can relate. So, court as not guilty, the community still thought otherwise. Now, this really upset Bathsheba. She became very bitter and started treating her hired help, her servants, really poorly, and she would starve them to the brink of death, and would physically assault them as well. In the movie, it was portrayed that she hanged herself, but she actually lived to be about 72 or 73, and she died around 1885. So she actually died from a really strange case of paralysis, which doctors didn't understand at the time. The medical report on her death states that her body had turned to stone. Of course, this just fueled the rumors of her being a witch, and I could be wrong, but I did look it up, and it sounds like fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. So that's a super rare connective tissue disease where the fiber tissues like muscles, tendons, ligaments are repaired, or they repair themselves and become bone. Breaking these bones actually just makes the whole condition worse because they just try to repair themselves more. But here's the entire connection to this lady and this family is that she lived in this house and supposedly had died in this house. So the reason that they thought that she was the one haunting them was because Carolyn Perrin, she's the mom, was laying on the sofa one day and felt a prick in her leg followed by muscle spasms. When she looked, there was a hole in her leg similar to what would be made with a large gauge sewing needle. So Lorraine Warren went on to suggest the mark was very similar to what was described as being done to the infant that had died under Bathsheba's care. So that's really the only evidence they have to this being what was haunting them. So therefore, Bathsheba was added overall into the Conjuring series. According to Andrea, who is one of the daughters, the family experienced other spirits as well and tended to smell rotting flesh throughout the house, and the beds would oftentimes rise off the floor. So she claims that her father would enter the basement and feel, this is a quote, a cold, stinking presence behind him. They tried to stay away from the basement, the dirt-floored cellar to be specific, as often as possible, but the heating equipment would often fail, causing Roger, the father, to go down to fix it. Yep. Don't buy a house with a dirt floor basement, like that doesn't make sense. Right? Yeah, okay. That's terrifying. Like, I mean, you see a dirt floor and it's immediately like, yeah, this is bad. Let's leave. Okay, so, over the 10 years that the family lived in the house, the Warrens made multiple trips to investigate. At one point, Lorraine conducted a seance to attempt to contact the spirits that were possessing the family. During the seance, Carolyn Perrin became possessed, speaking in tongues and rising from the ground in her chair. This wasn't in the movie. In the movie, Carolyn became possessed, and there was an exorcism, all that kind of stuff. So Andrea claimed to have secretly witnessed the seance, and she said, "I thought I was going to pass out. My mother began to speak a language not of this world in a voice not her own. Her chair levitated, and she was thrown across the room." So even though an exorcism was done in the movie, Lorraine said that she would never do an exorcism because they're only done by Catholic priests. I'm a little confused about this because I did talk to my retired pastor, and I don't know if he'd been a part of an exorcism or if he had if he just witnessed it. But I'm Lutheran, so, and apparently it's supposedly just a Catholic thing. I'll have to go talk to him about it. But, so a huge part of the story is the doll Annabelle, which I think has its own movie, right? Okay. Which they say was possessed by Bathsheba and attacked one of the Perrin daughters before taking over the body of Mrs. Perrin. Deciding there was no time to wait for a certified Catholic priest, Ed Warren performs the exorcism. That's in the movie. So this was an incredibly successful movie directed by James Wan. It grossed $319.5 million at the box office, and it cost $20 million to make. Here's a picture of the real Perrin family. So after all, the Perrin family suffered financial instability, so they were forced to live in this house until 1980, so that's 9 years. So yeah, thoughts?
This is a good movie, you know. I'd kind of like to go visit the house.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
We're definitely taking a trip to Rhode Island. That'd be a good time.
Yep.
Annabelle, the real doll, is actually in, supposedly anyways, in, I think it's a museum now, but, what's his name? Ed Warren had like a room that he kept all that stuff in, and the real Annabelle doll was in it. So that was pretty interesting. He had it continuously blessed every once in a while. So So that is all I have for today. Keep an eye out for more like creepy videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, bye.
Bye.